Hey everybody, all of two people. I do apologize, guys. I have been like I was trying to plan this stream and then time got away from me and I was planning on advertising it an hour ago and just like I said, time got away from me. Uh been applying to more jobs and all that business and discussing with Steve what my options should be moving forward and all of that. What to do about stockyards and um, sorry, Brandon's walking around back there. Um, but now we got three in here. Yay! Um, I hope everybody that was able to come to the live stream, the Halloween treat live stream that I did yesterday through the day. Or, if you didn't get to watch it live, if you got to watch it later through YouTube and enjoyed it, you know, I'm grateful for those of you that were in here or got to watch it later. Thank you for the views. Um, I did notice that I got maybe a couple more subscribers, so that's in a positive direction too. Guys, I'm sorry about my voice. I haven't really been talking that much today, but I guess it's just one of those days where my voice is not going to be really great. So I hopefully, as long as I keep lubricated with this Mountain Dew, things will keep functioning as they should. Now, I'm going to give, since I didn't really, I messed up and didn't advertise as good, I'm going to talk about a few things before I actually get started with the meat of the live stream to give any people, time to get in here that maybe saw my promotion just like a minute or two ago when I was able to get it up there. Um, so I'll just talk about some like housekeeping type stuff before we get started with this. So I did want to remind everybody that Saturday I'm having a prom night watch along. Um, if you're interested in joining me live, you don't have to be on camera. You can be audio only. Um, so anybody that is interested in being live on that, I have room for up to 9 people. So, the first 9 people that let me know that they want to be on there. Usually all the slots aren't filled up. So, don't get in a major hurry. But I don't know if this one is going to be maybe more popular than some of the others I've done. I'm thinking the cruising one, which I'm going to talk about in a second, might be possibly more popular or maybe my most popular watch along that I've done. Um, but anyway, we're doing the original prom night, the 1980 prom night. No remake around here. So, um, so that will be at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to start that. I don't know if Steve, aka the B Plan or Captain B Plan, will be doing anything Saturday. I haven't really heard him say, but I guess I'm going to keep my watch along for Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Sunday, we will be having yet another watch along because, as you guys know, the people that come in here quite often, you know that the first Sunday of every month I do a watch along for Sundays, and we're going to be doing a cruising watch along. This was one that was suggested. And so I had it on my calendar and it's coming up this Sunday. We will be starting at 6 p.m. Eastern time for this one because it's a Sunday. And I know that a lot of people have to work on Monday. So it, I think it would be in my best interest if I had a Sunday watch along a little bit earlier, so that um, we can get in here, enjoy it, have some fun, and then you guys can get your beauty rest for work on Monday morning. Now, again, if you're interested in being on the stream with me for the cruising watch along, again, you don't have to be on camera, uh, but just let me know, and I will be sure to send any and all interested parties a link to get on. Now, I've had some people message me. A couple people have messaged me about details about how they would be able to be on the live stream and all of that. And I've tried to, hey, Menelect, I have tried to outline all those things as best I can. Um, and if you have further questions, if you've been one of those that has messaged me and you got further questions, feel free to ask me. You can either ask me in here when I'm doing one of these streams of the week. As you know, I usually do, multiple live streams through the week. Um, or if you're my friend on Facebook, if you want to send me a message, a private message through Facebook, that is fine. Either way works for me. Or, I mean, you can simply wait till the evening of the watch along, and you can say, "Hey, can you send me the link? I'd like to be on here," and I will be happy to oblige you. Um, and I had someone message me and also ask about, kind of like the policies, like do's and don'ts. And I'm like, basically anything goes except, no getting in fights on here, verbal fights. Don't harass anybody. Don't bully anybody. Outside of that, it's a, anything goes type of thing. It looks like we've got 5 in here. Only Menelect has put something in the chat. But that's okay. Again, that's not a requirement to be in these live streams. You can simply come and just watch. Um, you know, I do look at the numbers from time to time to kind of gauge if I'm putting people to sleep, I guess, or they're tuning out and going somewhere else. That way I know, well, you went on a little long with this, Dana, or whatever. So, hopefully there'll be more people comment though, because uh, well, I guess technically it's Tuesday, but I guess this might feel like a Monday for people, especially if they took off for Halloween. So I could definitely see that, Millie. Um, but I tried not to party too hard last night. I handed out all my candy to the trick or treaters, and then I relaxed a little bit, watched a couple of things, and had some chili, had some earwax wieners. It's a lot more appetizing than it sounds. For those of you that watched my Halloween live stream yesterday, um, you know that that's not like as gross as it sounds, actually. Um, and hey, Darren, I'm glad to see you in here. So the reason why I was hoping some people would comment, at least at some point, is because I'm wondering if maybe I should expand this to doing more than one of these. Because I'm sure, given enough time to think about things, I could think of a lot of different things that would be considered really bad ideas in horror movie history. And so the ones I'm going to talk about tonight, I wrote down 10 to discuss tonight. Again, I'm not planning on this being like a 3 or 4 hour live stream. It might only be an hour. It might not even be an hour, depending on how long it takes me to go through these 10 things. Uh, and you guys may be thinking, well, this is going to be a little bit of a Dana rant, isn't it? Well, maybe kind of, especially on some of these. And not all these are new ones. Some of the one, number 9 that I'm going to talk about is one that happened quite a while ago. Um, so um, I just wanted to kind of give you guys a heads up. I mean, like you said, the amount of bad ideas in horror seems unlimited. So yes, do two. I mean, yeah, maybe we could do more than two. I just don't want to carry something out so far that people don't care anymore, or they're not interested anymore. Um, but I was trying to think. What I've been trying to do is try to come up with kind of different. I don't know if they're unique things because some other people may have done these things before or done similar things. Um, so these are not in any particular order by the strength of how much I think they're a bad idea. They're simply a list of 10 things that I came up with before this live stream um, to discuss. Like you said, my number one, another vampire TV series. That is a good one because I don't have that on mine. Now, any of you guys in here in the chat or that are just watching right now, if anybody wants to join on the live stream, again, you don't have to be on video. Just let me know. I will send you the link. And as soon as I see you backstage, I will add you. And you can do that at any point in time while I'm doing this live stream. It doesn't have to be right now. If you decide a little later, that is fine. So I think since we've got 5 in here, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And remember, these are in no particular order. These are not Dana's um, order in order like of how much I despise this idea. And Brandon Lee, hold on a minute, guys. You're gonna make me lose all my people, Brandon. All my people. Love. There we go. Brandon always likes to get by my astronaut light, and he always wants to knock it over. So, anyways, um, so let's just get started with the first one. The first really bad idea in horror history, and keep in mind these are only my opinions, okay? So please don't anybody get all bent out of shape thinking I'm speaking for everybody that's a horror fan. No, I'm only speaking for myself. So the first one, allowing Rob Zombie to direct remakes of classic horror films, for example, Halloween. Why do I think this is a really bad idea? Because I don't feel like Rob Zombie is equipped to remake something that a lot of people consider a classic. And yes, even though there's some people like Curly Jaws and his pretty much his entire generation, uh, considers the Rob Zombie stuff to be great. And even Curly Jaws has said that he feels like the original Halloween is overrated. Which he's perfectly entitled to his opinion, as is anybody else, and as is me. My opinion is Rob Zombie does not need to direct any remakes, and he didn't need to get started doing any remakes of classic horror films. Um, because he's equipped, in my opinion, to direct things like House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, um, even Three from Hell, which I didn't like as good as I did the House of a Thousand Corpses and the Devil's Rejects, but it wasn't, horrible. Okay. Where he has a weakness is, and keep in mind, again, this is my opinion, where he has a weakness, I think, is feeling like number one, he has to explain everything in a remake. Number two, he has to put the white trash sensibility all over it. Um, and number three, excess, which is something a classic horror film does not need. A classic horror film, such as Halloween, again, my opinion only, um, is great that it's subtle. It doesn't need excess. It works without having layer upon layer and upon layer of excess. Okay. And those are three huge reasons why Rob Zombie never, 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 never needs to be remaking any more classic horror films. That should be it, done, nada, no more. Um, if he wants to direct his own stuff, groovy. But please, please don't let him, or don't push him into doing a remake of a classic horror film. Just please, just call it done and let's move on from there. Um, Darren, you say, I can't believe they let Zombie do the monsters after those Halloween films. Exactly. And, I don't, I mean, I can't really call the monsters like a classic horror film, but it is kind of classic horror television. And so I totally get what you're talking about, Darren. Yes, Menelect. I mean, I have to agree. Rob Zombie is horrible at any movie requiring subtle storytelling. He is definitely not equipped to do that. And something like Halloween requires that subtlety. It just does. And some people are probably like, well, Dana, that's just because you grew up with this movie and you can't think outside the box and you're going to poo poo every new idea. But guys, I'm not the only one on the planet that disliked Rob Zombie's Halloween version of Halloween. I'm not. That's just a fact. It's out there. It's not on the books anywhere, as far as I know, but it's out there. I mean, people have expressed their opinion ever since that remake came out. And it's not just me, and it's not just the Dead Pit Boys. It's a lot of people, and then a lot of other people like it. They love it. They think Rob Zombie's a genius. Um, okay, so y'all can continue to keep talking about that one. I am going to move on, but I'm going to keep watching the chat to see what you guys put in there. Um, so number two, allowing Blumhouse to create a new Halloween trilogy. And you're probably thinking, oh, Dana, come on. Why are all these things about Halloween? Well, just mainly because these first two came to my mind almost immediately when I was thinking of bad ideas in horror movie history. I think that the Blumhouse guys, the head of Blumhouse, Jason Blum, uh, Ryan Turek, David Gordon Green, who directed these suckers, this trilogy, um, they're too much of hipsters to be making um, a trilogy, supposedly kind of. based on the original Halloween series. Okay? They need to be off making their own thing. Don't add to like, and I'm talking about like the first maybe couple of films primarily. They everything that can be okay, I'm going to be totally honest. Everything that could be said about Halloween has been said. I think it's time to end it. It should have been ended a long time ago. Don't be adding any additions. Don't be adding an appendix. Don't be adding a glossary. Don't add anything else to the Halloween series or the Halloween franchise. And people are dropping off like flies out of here. So I must be pissing some people off. Um, but I'm just trying to be honest here, guys. Um, And it's not like I'm a horror fan that's been around since like the 30s or the 20s or something like that. I'm not saying that. I was born in 1976. I'm 46 years old, but I have seen my fair share of horror movies, and I've seen my fair share of remakes, and I've seen my fair share of reboots and extensions and whatever, what have you, whatever you want to call them. And I feel like I've been around long enough to have a valid opinion on them. Um, Darren, you say Blumhouse quality of films have rapidly gone downhill the past 3 or 4 years. Unfortunately, it's all about the money for them. Exactly. Um, I think that is the problem, actually, Darren, with a lot of stuff that's come out, not just the Blumhouse stuff, um, but some of the other producers, some of the other newer directors, um, that it is about money. It's about, oh, let's see if we can make tons of money in the movie business. It's not really about making quality films. Um, so, and it's not even like it's not. It's even like they're not even trying to make quality films. It's like they're regurgitating the stuff that's been coming out in the last few years, and they just keep regurgitating it on a plate and shipping it out. And I know that sounds gross, but it's just the way that I feel about this stuff. Um, I think most of us that have seen the Halloween trilogy that Blumhouse put out, as well as some of the other things that Blumhouse has put out or that they're currently attached to that maybe hasn't come out yet. I mean, Blumhouse, Jason Blum, Ryan Turek, David Gordon Green, who the heck ever, feel free to prove me wrong, but you ain't proved me wrong yet. So, I'm willing to, change my mind. I've changed my mind about other things. So if they could prove to me that they're able to put out a competent film, that, makes sense and is not a regurgitation of what people have been doing the last 5 years or so, um, then maybe I'll consider it, I'll consider rewriting my chapter on them or whatever. So, but yeah, Darren, I agree. Oh, good Lord. I'll have to block user 69mega.com. Okay. So, anyway, y'all feel free to keep talking about any and all things. I'm just going to go to the next one on my list, which is remaking Child's Play. I mean, in my opinion, that was a very bad idea that turned out to be a lousy film. Um, and here's one reason why I think it was a lousy film. In my opinion, the reason why the original Child's Play worked was because you had the right age of kid playing Andy Barclay, the kid that so much wants the good guy doll. And his mother ends up able to acquire one, but they don't know that it's possessed by Charles Lee Ray, aka Chucky, um, a killer, and I guess you would say a serial killer, voiced by Brad Dourif. Um, that's another thing, you know. There was no voice of Brad Dourif, and I know Mark Hamill did the voice of Chucky in the remake, okay? And I'm not saying Mark Hamill is a bad actor, I'm not. But I don't know if it's because I've been kind of pre-programmed in my mind and my hearing is pre-programmed to hear Brad Dourif when Chucky talks and it was just foreign to me. But I've heard other people say that even though Mark Hamill did the voice for this remake, that it sounded horrible. And so I don't know what they did to the voice. Maybe it was digitally modified somehow. Um, but okay, back to the kid, the age of the kid. What in the hell was a kid that old in the remake I'm talking about wanting a doll like this? It did that did not work because, and I've talked about this before. Alex Vincent, who played Amy Barclay in the original one, and I've even read articles that kind of attest to this. That in during the first movie, Alex Vincent was pretty much really scared of that damn doll. So I think some of the stuff, and I've mentioned this before, when they send Andy to the the mental hospital, basically, because they think that he's a crazy kid that killed his babysitter, his mom's friend, Maggie, who was staying with him and got pretty much pushed or whatever outside out a window. Um, Even no matter how outrageous that may seem, that the cops within this movie thought that a child that small would be able to push a grown adult out the window. Um, that's kind of beside the point. That's horror movie logic. But when he gets sent to the mental hospital and um, he knows that Chucky is coming to get him, and he climbs up on a box or something and gets up to the door, and his hands are on the bars in this little square in the door, and he's trying to talk to the doctor, the psychiatrist, and tell him, Chucky's going to kill me, please help me, and it really looks like that child is crying, and that's heartbreaking, that to see a child who appears to be that terrified of some a doll that's coming after him to kill him and take his soul. Um, so it just automatically did not work for me seeing this grown ass child or teenager that, number one, why would they even want a doll? Whether the doll could talk or move or whatever, why would they want that? I mean, maybe I could understand them wanting a robot or something like that, but not a doll. So that didn't work for me. Um, Sorry, Mark Hamill. The voice didn't work for me. Um, and the story just overall didn't work for me in that remake. Just there was too many things that did not work in that movie. Darren, you said Blumhouse is a company controlled by hipsters. That's the problem. Exactly. Um, and this is totally okay, Darren. You say, I will say I did enjoy the Child's Play remake. I'm not a big fan of the original or the franchise, Part two, I think, is the best by a mile. And that's cool. Again, like I said, these are only my opinions on these things. Um, Jay, you say hipsters, that's a perfect label. It pretty much is. Um, so moving right along to the fourth one, Sam Raimi giving his blessing for the Evil Dead remake to be made. And I mean, that goes for Bruce Campbell and Rob Tappert and all those guys that were associated with the original film. Um, but especially Sam Raimi, because I figure Sam Raimi was the initial, he was the key holder to the whole thing. And I don't think that these Jokers could have made a remake if he had said, no, I don't want anybody remaking The Evil Dead. Um, Hypesters. Um, so I know I can hear them screaming now. Dirk, one of the loudest. That hey, Danny, you need to give the Evil Dead remake another chance, and I get that, and you guys that love it or like it are completely entitled to your opinion, as I am. I just I think number one, this opened the door where there was no hope, there was no turning back, there was no way in hell that we were going to get any further exploits of Ash and the original Evil Dead series. Okay. And perhaps that's the way Sam Raimi wanted it, because like I said, you reach a point where the time to make another sequel to something um will will come and go. It will pass. Okay. I've said that about Phantasm Ravager. And basically probably at the time I that the Evil Dead remake came out, I kind of had a small amount of hope that Raimi would make Evil Dead 4. But then after this outrageous piece of garbage, in my opinion, came out, um, I think it went down to almost zero, almost zero. Um, and I basically I'm going to keep this to. I wish Sam Raimi had never gave his blessing for it to be remade. I wish he had said no to any and all parties that wanted to remake that movie. But unfortunately, that doesn't usually happen, and it's usually because there's some money involved. I'm not going to lie about it. And so I'm not going to go into details about what I didn't like about the remake, because I've already said that ad nauseum about why I don't like the Evil Dead remake. My core thing here is I wish Sam Raimi never gave his blessing for it to be remade. Um, Then you say, my feelings on the Evil Dead remake. It's blasphemy. Um, Jay, you say, I miss the days when we could say that's crazy talk and agree to disagree. Or was this just my social circle? No, Jay, I mean, I miss those days too. I really do miss those days. And I try to keep that alive in these live streams that I say it a lot, especially to old Curly Jaws, because there's that big generational gap between he and I. And we get along great. But I always, I will say invariably, about 9 times out of 10, well, Curly Jaws, well, I'll just have to agree to disagree with you on that. And he's cool with that. I think I probably said that to Darren before, to Dirk. And I will say that to anybody. Hey, that's agree to disagree. I mean, and we have been like we rib each other, and we might say different incarnations of that crazy talk. But it is my hope that nobody will ever, excuse me, get bent out of shape in my streams, and that people won't start, um, getting all over somebody. And I'm not saying this is the Dead Pit Boys' fault at all. It's not. And they can't like police their page constantly, nor would they probably want to, unless somebody's getting violent. It's like a death threats type of thing. But I'm hoping that nobody ever does that in here. If you do it in here and you do it in the chat and you jumping all over somebody because they don't like or they like something, then I got the power to make you gone out of here. And I will do that. Um, and if I see it on my Deadites on Deck Facebook page, I will make sure that the comments, the rough comments are gone. And if I have to, the whole conversation will be gone. Um, so, no, I don't think this was just your social circle, Jay. I think it's one of those things where the landscape, the climate, whatever has changed. And people just can't deal with a difference of opinion in a grown up way. They have to harass people and get all over somebody like it's a matter of life and death and all that stuff. Jay says, sorry, didn't mean to retail back to Sam paying bills. um, so, moving right along to number 5, remaking Hellraiser. Are y'all seeing a pattern to this? There's a lot of remake talk in here. This is a more current one because Hulu just put out a remake of Hellraiser. I call it a remake to Hellraiser. I mean, some other people might call it a reboot, a reimagining, a retelling. To me, it's a remake. Only, I guess what I would really say about it is a very broad remake. Because it didn't really have the same characters. It was kind of a little bit of a different story that was being told. And I know it's been told to me, but one of the big problems I had with this was the fact that they kind of made, and it wasn't Pinhead. It wasn't called Pinhead. It was something about something about priestess or whatever. And Steve tried to tell me, he's like, this is the way it was in the story Clive Barker wrote. But damn, Clive Barker, did he or did he not direct the original Hellraiser? And so I would think that if he had a problem with one, at any point in time, what we came to know as Pinhead, if he had a problem with the high priestess or whatever being called Pinhead, I think he would have said something by now. And I don't recall him ever saying that. So this priestess or priest or whatever that was kind of head over the Cenobites is not referred to as Pinhead in here. They're also not male. They're pretty much androgynous or whatever you want to call it, but they look very feminine to me. And again, I was told by Steve, and some other people have said this too. They said, well, in the original story, the character of that we came to know later as Pinhead was androgynous, more feminine. And I'm like, yeah, but it just doesn't work for me. It was weird looking. I didn't like how it looked. Um, I didn't like how the Cenobites looked. Um, the characters in it were terrible, in my opinion. Most of them couldn't act their way out of a paper bag. Again, this is all my opinion. And I tried 1,000 ways to like it or to find something that I liked about it, and I just couldn't. Um, and and I've talked about this before too. And please don't take it as I am sounding homophobic or racist or sexist or any number of things that you could attribute to what I'm going to say. I have no problem with gay people or people of color or whatever being in a movie, any kind of movie. It doesn't have to be horror movies. It could be any kind of movie. It could be a comedy. It could be a drama. Uh, could be a teen sex comedy. I don't care. But in what I do have a problem with is when they just seem to be stuck in there just in an attempt to apologize for something in the past, guys. And that's the way I feel like we are at what point we are at now in movie making and television like shows that get made. Because they it seems like now almost every movie and almost every television show they have to have either a gay, bi, trans, whatever character in there or two. Um, they have to make sure they show them kissing. If there's two characters in there who are in a relationship, they have to make sure that more than once they're shown kissing. Um, let's see what else. But like, okay, let me do a comparison with something like the Hellraiser remake and something um like uh Rocket Man, which I don't know how many of you guys have seen Rocket Man. But it's about Elton John. It's a really, really good movie. We all know that Elton John is homosexual, right? Okay. So, oh, and another movie I'll say that pretty much has a homosexual character in it is Bohemian Rhapsody, which is about Freddie Mercury. Okay. Um, so naturally, those movies, I would expect them to kind of try to be as true as they could be to a character because we're talking about a real person. This is based on a real person's life. So there was a scene in Rocket Man, and you could tell it shocked some people where the character Elton John's um, the person playing Elton John in the movie at one point he's obviously having sex with another man. Okay. But because I know that Elton John was homosexual in real life or is still homosexual in real life, I did I didn't think that that was out of place at all. Some people may have thought so. The scenes in Bohemian Rhapsody where Freddie Mercury is looking at guys and discovering that he's sexually attracted to guys, he's not sexually attracted to women, and he has to, well, he's kind of saved from telling the woman he's with at the time that, hey, I'm homosexual, and he tries to tell her he's bisexual, and she's like, no, Freddie, you're homosexual. I've done that for a long time. Um, but there are scenes in that where Freddie Mercury is shown as being very flamboyant and all of that, and having these flamboyantly kind of gay parties and stuff like that. But that's who Freddie Mercury was. He was a gay musician. Okay. So I think in those movies, it has a place, but you don't have to put a gay, bi, trans, whatever person in every single movie that you make and every single television show that you make. It's just not, it's not needed. I mean, the same way you don't have to put like all straight people. If there's a need for a gay character, then put a gay character in there. If there's a need for a trans character, put that trans character in there. If there's a need for a bisexual character, put that bisexual character in there and give them something to do in the movie. Okay? But that does not mean that you have to put them in every single thing that comes out. Okay. The same thing with people of color or Asian people or even white people, but you don't have to go back either, in my opinion, and redo things that have already been done. Because let me tell you, like for instance, and I've said this before, I heard they're redoing or remaking The Little Mermaid and they're gonna make the Little Mermaid black. Why? Why? Why do they have to do that? And it probably seems a little obnoxious for a white person to be saying these things. But I would be saying this if the reverse, if I thought the reverse was happening, if they, were all of a sudden just remaking like what if they remade things like Coming to America or something like that that has a lot of black actors in there. What if they all of a sudden decided we're going to remake Coming to America and put all white people in it? Would that make sense? No, it would not. Because that movie has so many black characters in it that it would be stupid to put white people like can you imagine a white person being in Eddie Murphy's role? I mean, really? It just I don't know. It just blows my mind. Um, and Darren, you say everything is woke now. It's like they go through a checklist in every movie so they include everyone. Yeah, but it's not needed because it seems so tacked on. It seems like a second thought or a third thought or whatever. But I get what you're saying. Jay says, Darren, thoughts on the new Hellraiser? Darren, you said, Jay, I have a copy on my laptop, but I'm in no rush to see it from what I've heard. Uh, Jay, you say, was surprised. I really like the new Cenobites, and that's cool, Jay. It seems like, well, I guess I am pretty much getting on a rant here, but I'm not angry with anybody that liked the new thing. I'm just a question asker. When I don't understand things, and this drives Steve crazy, when I don't understand things, I ask questions. And I ask them out loud. And for me, anyway, this is why these live streams are good because I get to like kind of get in here with like minded people. We kind of like, the same types of movies and stuff. And where we do differ, I feel like that we can talk about it rationally and like adults and all that. Um, hey, TJ, you say, I mean, The Little Mermaid was a cartoon, lol. Exactly. Um, so, moving on to number 6, denying Kane Hodder the role of Jason in Freddy versus Jason. Why do I think this was a bad idea? I'll tell you why I think it was a bad idea. Number one, Kane Hodder had played Jason for the last, since part 7, right? So why did they get the big idea? Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to replace the guy that's been playing Jason the last few times and put another stunt man, Ken Kersinger, in here. Like, I've heard a lot of different rumors that flew around about this, that like things from everything from Kane Hodder was um too big of a stunt man, and I guess they were afraid that he was going to hurt Robert England. Um, but he's a stunt man. Kane Hodder has many years of experience. He knows how to handle himself around people smaller than him. I'm sure he would not intentionally go in there and hurt Robert England. Um, and and like there have been all kinds of things floating around, but that was one thing that I heard more than once, was they thought he was too big of a stunt man to act opposite Robert England. And it's like, okay, well, Robert England played Freddy from day one, except in the remake. Which I may save that Nightmare on Elm Street remake for another time, since I've got so much remake talk in this one, and I wanted to kind of limit it to only 10 tonight. But from what I can understand from Kane Hodder, he was led to believe for a long time. They even gave him the script, evidently, to Freddy versus Jason, and then just pull the rug out from under him. So, I mean, I really don't have a lot more to say about that particular one. Other than it was pretty shitty, what they did to Kane Hodder during that, because he was crushed. I mean, if you watch To Hell and Back, that is a very good documentary. I know I've talked about it multiple times. But I think Brandon, he knocked it sideways. He didn't knock it over. But it's something that has really bugged me over the years, and like I said, that To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story, is an excellent documentary on Kane Hodder. He talks about everything from the Freddy versus Jason debacle to how he actually got severely burned, which is so heartbreaking. And he talks about being severely bullied when he was a child, which is that is also heartbreaking. Um, TJ, you said there's a lot more wrong with Freddy versus Jason than having another actor play Jason. LOL. Oh yes, TJ, there definitely is. I will agree with you there. This was just one point of contention that I had, but I totally agree with you there that there's a lot more wrong with that. There's multiple things wrong with that movie. And we could spend, an hour probably talking about all the things that are wrong with it. So moving along, and before I talk about this person, I will say that I have come to appreciate this person more on the level of listening to them talk about horror films. They are passionate about horror films. They do know their stuff when they're talking about horror films. But that person is Eli Roth. And the bad idea that I'm talking about is allowing Eli Roth to keep making horror films. Okay? Because no matter how knowledgeable that guy is about horror movies, he, in my opinion, guys, does not have the chops to be making horror films. He really does not, in my opinion, have an understanding of what makes a good horror film. He is more almost like the Rob Zombie school of horror filmmaking. Too much excess. And that includes, and you're probably going to find it surprising that I'm saying this, too much gore, excessive gore, over the top gore that, I'm not a prude, but you could make a better movie if you, to me, and I've said this before, the more gore, when someone puts excessive amounts of gore in a movie, I get the feeling that they didn't really know how to make the movie well. So they think, oh, throw a bunch of gore on the screen and then people will like it. And that does happen because nowadays, or in the last several years, um, that is what it seems like audiences, the new generation of audiences, want to see. They want to see that over the top, extreme, insanely extreme amounts of gore. But me, on the other hand, I like well placed gore, but I don't care for like over the top. We're just going to put it here to have it here because I really didn't know how to make a competent movie. And that's what I get from both Rob Zombie and that's what I get from Eli Roth. The other thing is Eli Roth, again, I'm not a prude, but Eli Roth wants to, at times, especially with the Hostel movies, is throw a bunch of excessive sex in it. And I'm not talking about regular missionary position sex. I'm talking about things like Hostel, where the two guys go in the, I can't remember if it's Hostel or Hostel 2 where they do this, but they go, I don't know what it is. It's almost like a peep show, but it's like violent, like these guys are walking through almost like a fun house or a haunted house, only it's a sex house. It's they're watching these women. I don't know, maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but it was almost like they were watching women be violently taken from behind or whatever, and the women were naked and their breasts and vagina and everything was pressed up against glass. I'm sorry, but I don't need all of that. Um, to to make a good movie. To me, that detracts totally from the movie. And if you're watching a horror movie, I understand a little sex, um, a little TNA, all that. But again, the excess. I'm not watching a porn. So if I wanted to watch a porn, I'd watch a porn. I'm trying to watch a horror movie here. So, Darren, you say with Eli Roth, it's more about who you know than being a good director. I did enjoy Cabin Fever and Hostel too, but can't think of any others. I will admit I did like uh, Cabin Fever, Darren, and that would explain why when he made Hostel, I you know I thought, well, maybe this is gonna be more of the same, and then no. Um, Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that because I thought that was the case there. You say I'm biased with Hustle too, though it has Edward Finnick. Um, yeah, Steve has told me about that. Jay said people are freaks. Cruising is going to be an interesting watch with Taylor. Now, see, I like cruising. And I'll talk more about this when we do the watch along. But William Friedkin, you know, even though, some of the stuff that goes on in cruising, people would consider it freaky, you know, just like they would have considered a lot of things that happened at Studio 54 freaky, um, back in the day. Um, but even if cruising is considered freaky, to me, it's freaky on a whole different level than Hostel or Hostel 2 or, um, so, um, yeah, but I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. I guarantee that. Um, Yes, Darren, Cruising is another freaking masterpiece, in my opinion. Uh, so moving along to the next one, and y'all are probably going to find this funny because I just did a classic Jamie Lee Curtis horror retrospective, and I still love Jamie Lee Curtis. So, but this is still probably going to surprise some of you. Allowing Jamie Lee Curtis anywhere near the Halloween franchise at this point. Because, in my honest opinion, Jamie Lee Curtis hasn't totally lost her mind, but she's lost her mind when it comes to the Halloween franchise. Something has happened that makes her unable to determine what's a good Halloween film. I mean, it has to. I don't know how she could have said, see, I brought this up before. She hardly will talk about any of the horror stuff she's made in the past. And some of you are probably thinking, well, Dana, why rehash the past and talk about what she did in the past? Perhaps she just doesn't think that's valid anymore. But she seems to kiss the ass of the Blumhouse team. But I don't hear her say anything about Carpenter anymore much. I mean, I know there was that good interview on the Fog 4K, and bless her for doing that. Um, but she just seems to have flipped her wig, flipped her lid, whatever, where she just woke up one day and didn't was no longer, like I said, able to determine what makes a good Halloween movie. Or to recognize that they should have done ended this shit with Halloween a long time ago. Well, I'm sure that's a big part of it, Jay. Jamie Lee Curtis kisses ass because they pay the money. Yeah, but guys, I just want somebody to be true. I want them to tell the truth to everybody. I want them to be true to themselves. I don't want it to be all about money. And sadly, a lot of it has become all about the money, just like you guys have said over and over. And I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying you're right. With the majority of this being attributed to money matters. But again, I brought this up about Jamie Lee Curtis before. She has more than enough money. I don't think she's broke. She's married to Christopher Guest. I don't think he's broke. So why in the world would they need more money? Why would either of them need more money at this point? I believe she was, Darren, that she was one of the producers on Halloween Ends. But Steve always tells me that doesn't mean anything if somebody's a producer, because sometimes these movies have about a million producers. I think John Carpenter might have been even a producer, and I don't even think he wants to talk about that movie. Um, but so, as long as Jamie Lee Curtis keeps her promise to not be involved with any other Halloween movies that get made, I I would be happy with that. Unfortunately, number one, I don't believe that they're through making Halloween movies. Number two, I find it hard to believe she's just going to up and say, "I'm not going to be in anymore," because I mean she's not been killed off or anything. So what's to keep her from you know, and like technically in Resurrection, she got killed off at the beginning of Resurrection, but they just forget about that stuff and just put somebody back in here. Um, Jay, you say, gotta set your kids up for life. Those lifestyles are pricey. Yeah, they certainly are, unfortunately. Now here's the older one that I was going to talk about. Remaking Psycho. Again, this is another example of remaking a classic, a bona fide classic. Again, my opinion, but I'm sure I'm not the only one that thinks Psycho is a classic movie. And to do it in such a way, God bless Anne Heche, you know, but, you know, Anne Heche, bless her heart, in my opinion, was not a good Marion. Um, Vince Vaughn definitely was not a good Norman Bates. He wasn't even a passable Norman Bates. Again, they tried to be excessive when they should have just kept it subtle by pretty much, almost showing Norman Bates's character masturbating while he's looking uh, at Marion Crane in the shower, or going to get in the shower. Um, there were so many things that, because they were kind of, I guess, left to the imagination or were more subtle in Hitchcock's original Psycho, um, that's why that film worked, I think. Because most things were so subtle. And then I think that led people to, when the shower scene happened, that people's brains probably were pre-programmed to think that they actually saw more than they actually saw in that. Because if you go back and you look at the original Psycho and you look at that shower scene, you may think there's tons of penetration with the knife and all that, but not really. It's playing head games. And Hitchcock was really good at creating something like this. So that it was too much excess, in my opinion, in the Psycho remake. Um, Basically, nothing was left to the imagination. Um, Vince Vaughn was not a strong enough actor. Sorry, Vince Vaughn, to pull off this movie. Yeah, again, there were a lot of things wrong with it. Just like TJ was saying about Freddy versus Jason. Sorry about that, guys. Um, there were multiple things wrong with this remake, and I'm not going to go through every single one of them in here, but um, just letting you know, I think that one was another really bad idea in horror history. The last one, and some of you guys may be saying, "What in the hell? I don't even know who she is," but some of you may. So, allowing Rebecca McKendry to keep making horror movies. And you might be saying, who the hell is Rebecca McKendry? Rebecca McKendry, for anybody who doesn't know who who she is, she's pretty much a professor, a college professor. Lord knows what, how or why these people get the jobs they do. Um, but she, I guess, like for film, and she talks about a lot of horror films in her class. She is also, she's probably been on other podcasts, but she's frequently on this, uh, all the colors of whatever. I don't know if it's called All the Colors of the Night or whatever, but it might just be called All the Colors Podcast or whatever. She's on that quite frequently with a guy, and I can't remember his name. And something that irritates me about this woman that has nothing to do really with her making horror movies is every movie they talk about. I don't care if the movie was like before she was born. She will, and if you don't believe me, listen to her on that All the Colors podcast. Look that up and go listen to that, because Steve is listening, and Steve agrees with me on this. That she will invariably figure out a way to tie herself into it, like like some grand thing that she's supposedly done. She can tie it into some movie from the 20s or 30s, you know. Um, and again, if you don't believe me, go listen to that podcast. So she, hold on, Let me, so I don't sound like I'm talking out of the side of my mouth here. I think she's made at least two movies, one quite frequently, or one quite recently. I mean, sorry. Um, okay. So actually, she has 10 directing credits. Um, a lot of these are short films. So the short films she did starting in 2012, she did The Dump, The Barista, Witch's Brew, Found, and Exquisite Corpse. Okay. Now, starting in 2018, she made some feature length films. All the Creatures Were Stirring is one. Psycho Granny. She did a short called Separation in 2020. Uh, Glorious, which is the one that I recently saw, which some of you may have seen, that came out this year. And she's got another damn movie that's coming out in 2023 that's in post production called Elevator Game. Okay. Um, so let's see. Let me, TJ say about the money thing. Billionaires in politics still ask for money from people who vote for them. Just say no. That's right, TJ. Um, Darren, you say they shit all over that Psycho remake. TJ, you say who the hell's Rebecca McKinney? LOL. Darren, you say she's another hypester or hipster. Yeah. You tie herself in, you say, Jay. Um, hey, old curly jaws, you say doing a Saw movie every year. Those movies were terrible. The only good one was the first one. I do agree with you there, old curly jaws. I definitely agree with you there. And TJ says, making sense there, old curly, LOL. Oh, curly jaws, you say, then they replaced with a pig puppet. That's hilarious. Um, okay. So, show of hands, like virtual hands, guys. How many of you watched Glorious? Because that was the most recent thing she's done. I'm just curious how many of you in here have seen this. Um, because I tried to watch that thing, even though I don't like hearing her talk. Her voice to me is like nails on a chalkboard. But I did attempt to try to watch this. I was doing other things, but I was able to watch most of it, and I thought it was horrible. Um, it TJ, you never heard of this woman or these movies? Wow, you're lucky there, TJ. You're lucky there. No, Curly Jaws, you say never heard of it. Darren has heard of it, evidently. He says no interest in Glorious. Yeah, you are definitely not missing anything. So, for those of you that have not seen it, I am going to give a little bit of a plot synopsis on this. I don't really know how Steve felt about it. I didn't really get a full, determination of that. From him. So I probably just have to ask him again or ask him point blank. So plot synopsis: after a breakup, Wes ends up at a remote rest stop. He finds himself locked inside the bathroom with a mysterious figure speaking from an adjacent stall. Soon Wes realizes he is involved in a situation more terrible than he could imagine. Okay, I'm not I'm not going to give the ending away for Glorious because there might be some of you that are interested in seeing it. And I can accept that. Um, but I don't, I think the reveal or the twist in this movie would have been great if it had been done by anybody other than this woman. If the movie had been made by anyone other than Rebecca McKendry, because the woman does not know how to make a competent horror film. She does not, in my opinion. Um, she has um, she has no inkling of logical storytelling properties, and she should, because evidently she's seen every horror movie on the planet. The way she talks on this podcast. Um, but sometimes these people that have watched the most horror movies are the worst people to direct a horror movie. Um, Eli Roth, for example. Eli Roth knows his horror. He's seen oodles of them, but he has a problem making a relatively competent, watchable horror film, in my opinion. The same can be said for Rebecca McKendry. Um, she's evidently seen a lot of horror films, a lot of very good horror films, um, but she cannot make one, and nor should she be allowed to make one. But Um, and I'm really surprised that old Curly Jaws hasn't heard of her, because you know how I say a lot of the differing opinions that me and old Curly Jaws have is mainly, in my opinion, because of the generational gap between us. So Rebecca McKendry's not young, but it's almost like she's trying to make films for this newer generation. She's trying to make a splash in their generation. Okay. Um, and in my opinion, she's doing a lousy job of it on all parts. Um, so um, I can't remember if Glorious might be on Shutter. Um, I really can't remember. TJ said, by the way, Dan, talk about how awesome my Halloween costume was. Haha. It was awesome. I love it. Um, you know what my mom said about my Halloween costume? I was talking to her today on the phone, and she said, Dana, I think that was the best Halloween costume I've seen you have. And she laughed for about 10 minutes straight about that costume, but she said it was great though. She really, really liked it. Jay, you say, now I'm curious. Are you curious about Glorious, or are you curious about TJ's costume? If you're curious about TJ's costume, he did post a picture of him in his costume on the Deadites on Deck Facebook page. And Darren, you say, TJ, I saw your short film. I really liked it. Yeah, I said this last time. It was really, really great. I don't even care that it was like a minute and something long. It was awesome. I'm going to block 69mega.com. Uh, and TJ, you say, thanks, Darren. Nice of you to say. So, uh, so I'm going to get off of my rant here. Um, so anybody that came in here later, would you be interested in me doing more of these really really bad ideas in horror history, or is like one and done enough? You don't want to see me rant more about these? TJ, you say I took a ton of selfies, lol. You're curious about this director and her podcast. Actually, I don't think it's her podcast. I think it's the guy's podcast. But let me see if I can find some information on that. Yeah, I think it okay, actually, it's called Colors of the Dark. It's, part of the Fangoria podcast network. So let me in case any of, you are interested, evidently it's on Apple. Um, I don't know where Steve gets it from. He downloads it, oh, that's odd. Okay. Um TJ say, ran away, Dana. There are so many bad, hard ideas. Yes. Well, just when I was writing down and trying to limit myself to 10, I kept thinking of others. And I've even uh, thought of, you know, others, while I was just talking here. Um, so that, like I said, that's a Fangoria podcast, and it's called Colors of the Dark. I just couldn't remember the exact title of it. So she's Dr. Rebecca McKendry. She's a professor, Fangoria writer, director, and the guy on there is Elric Kane. He's a professor, he's part of the Pure Cinema podcast, and he's a filmmaker. Um, and they're supposed to be taking a deep look at the horror genre. I mean, here's another way that you might be able to access those. In case you guys are interested in listening. TJ, you say she spells her name Rebekah. That shows you a lot, huh? Yeah, she got to be different, don't she? Can't spell Rebecca the normal way. So, guys, I'll probably stay on here till 9:30, which is 4 minutes from now. We've had a good few people in here, about 9 or 10 uh, through most of this. So that makes me happy. At least I was, I guess, keeping people entertained enough to stay in here with me throughout the thing. So it sounds like most of you would like me to continue doing these at least at some point in time. Um, I'm probably not going to do another one of these tomorrow. I will probably be doing the cheese extreme Wednesday tomorrow. So you can look forward to that. Um, and hold on, let me go grab the movies because I want to remind y'all what movies we're going to be covering. Oh, good Lord. What's this? I forgot to block them. I just put them in timeout. Shoot. Okay. Anyways, Darren, you said the Pure Cinema podcast is worth a listen. It definitely is. I have listened to the Pure Cinema podcast. Steve does listen to that one as well. She's not on that one, and every once in a while they get Quentin Tarantino and Eli Roth. Yes, they do. So what we're going to be covering for Cheese Extreme Wednesday, we're going to be covering Splatter University. That's a wacky movie. And Student Bodies. So you guys can look forward to that tomorrow. And I don't know what I'll be doing Thursday and Friday. I may continue my streak of pretty much taking a Friday off from doing these. Um, I'm still continuing the job hunt. Got turned down for a few more jobs today. Um, but I do have an interview, well, like a webinar type of thing, Thursday at 2 for a job where I would be booking people to go on cruises and and getting their itineraries together and all of that, which according to what I was looking at, I could be making pretty good money doing that, especially for groups of people that are wanting travel, their travel plans set up. Um, well, you're welcome, Jay. I hope to see you next time. TJ, you said, love student bodies. I need to watch that again. Good luck with the interview, Dana. Well, thank you, TJ. And I'm glad that you love student bodies. Um, and I'm actually looking forward to talking about both of these. I think it's going to be fun. Me and Steve actually, speaking of Splatter University, me and Steve did do a commentary a long while back for Splatter University, and it was hilarious because Steve was like, goes, oh, like that. I can't do it like him, but it sounds like I'm howling like a wolf. But there's a guy that in Spider University that keeps doing something like that. He's kind of like he's howling at girls all the time. Um, and Steve kept doing that periodically during the commentary. You too, Darren. And guys, it is 9:30, but I don't want you to forget that we're having a watch along both, or I'm having a watch along both Saturday and Sunday. Prom night will be Saturday's watch along starting at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Please let me know at any time if you want to be on the stream. You do not need to be on camera. I'm not requiring it. Sunday, we're having the cruising watch along. I know a lot of you are really looking forward to that. Again, if you want to join me on the stream, please let me know. That way I'll be able to send you the link. That one will be at 6 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. So, with all that being said, I want to thank all of you guys for being in here with me tonight. It's been fun. And TJ, you said I might be available for prom night. I'll let you know. Cool. Yeah, you can let me know even the evening of TJ if you want to. Um, I'm not real strict on that. So, um, but I want to thank everybody who joined me tonight. I think we had a really good group. I think we had a good discussion. It was fun to have that back and forth. And some of the stuff that you guys were saying about Rebecca McKendry just made me laugh. Even those of you that don't have a clue who the woman is. So, um, with all that being said, I am going to skedaddle on out of here for the night, and I will see everyone on the flip side. Y'all have a good night now.